My family health history is not so great. Both of my grandfathers have had bypass surgeries. One has had 2 heart attacks and the other has had a heart valve replaced. My father's had 2 strokes, one a clot and the other a bleed. And of course there's plenty of high blood pressure to go around. Now, knowing this history is helpful. It helps me to watch for symptoms in my own life that need an immediate response and how to live in ways that can prevent me from experiencing these illnesses. But there's a difference between the symptoms of a heart attack and actually having a heart attack. But when we see the symptoms, we should respond. And the faster and more fully we respond, the better our chances of not only surviving, but of returning to good health. The church is the same. When a church is ill, it needs to respond or else it'll die. And when a church has symptoms of illness, it needs to respond or else it will become ill. And it's easier to get rid of the symptoms than to cure a disease, but even a sick church can be cured. However, it takes willing people to do the work. It was 8 years ago or so when you all were eating through your endowments and running out of cash reserves and had a meeting where the congregation was called together and told that unless the finances changed dramatically, the church would close its doors in several months. In that moment, it's clear to look back and see that the church was very sick and on the verge of sliding into that category of a dying church. But let's put that moment into some perspective. 10 years prior to that meeting, the church was doing well on a numbers front. There were people attending, there was money to spare, there was even talk of adding and building an addition. Now, in the conversations I've had with some longtime members, there was some strife between leaders and within the congregation, but overall it was clear that the church wasn't sick. It wasn't even near sick. But in just 10 years' time, the church was near death. Now, nearly 10 years post that meeting, and here we sit, doing well on a numbers front, adding new members and new visitors yearly, growing the children's ministry, increasing staff, and definitely increasing our outreach giving. We've got new leadership that's willing to go and to do work, and this next year we'll be taking our very first international mission trip as a congregation. Financially, we posted a surplus in 2 of the last 3 years and are on par for another year of surplus this year. We give more time and more energy, more space, more resources, and more money to our community than we have in the recent past. And we continue to stress seeking, sharing, and serving Christ in all that we do. But it's taken us nearly a decade to go from that threat of our doors being shut to where we are now. And when I came and answered the call 3 years ago, I would be asked by people in the community what church I was serving. And when I told them First Christian Church, they would say, "I've never heard of that," even though the church has been in our community since 1843. But when I would say beside the funeral home or mention the preschool, then suddenly they would know of our building, but not our church. My hope is that we can learn from our past. We can remember the pain and look forward to knowing that God has called us to be something better and to do something greater. God has called us to continue to be willing to seek, share, and serve Christ in all that we do. And if we do this, then we'll start to see God at work through us and around us. And we'll see that we can stay away from being a very sick church and stay away from being a dying church and move into being a healthy church.